Anyway, we are going on. We are on time, which is great for conferences. Okay, my dear friend, big round of applause for Tuğçe Ergül. She came from San Francisco as well. She's an investor and also a part of Cointopia team. She's going to be moderating this session, so big round of applause for Tuğçe. Yeah, she's going to be moderating this panel, and thanks for coming. Our panelists are Fahim Bakshi from Kinguin. I pronounced it right, huh? And Salim Ali from Loyak. And he also came all the way from Silicon Valley, actually. And your house is really close to Apple campus, right? Apple Park.
A mile away from the Apple campus.
Oh God, good. You're lucky. So, thanks all for coming. Stay. They will be talking about going for an ICO in terms of business and marketing. Wow. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. So the room is filling up. It's so great to see so many familiar faces, but also get to know so many new players in the blockchain space in the region in Turkey. I have two amazing panelists here. So briefly about myself. I'm originally Turkish, born and raised. I've been an investor as an angel or as a VC for the last 8 years, and I recently joined the Cointopia team. You previously saw Charles's speech. So I'm helping them with international expansion and growth and strategy. And that's a little bit about myself, but I will kind of ask you to introduce yourself to the audience and tell a little bit about Loyak and Kinguin before we can dive deeper into the ICO-related aspects.
Sure. Get started?
Yeah.
Oh, hi, my name is Salim Ali. I'm from Silicon Valley. I'm the CEO and founder of Loyak. Before Loyak, I spent 8 years at SAP. So very enterprise, very big company perspective. So I'm doing the opposite right now, going from a $130 billion company to a small startup. What we're trying to do is apply blockchain to enterprise use cases. Figure out how can enterprises, businesses use blockchain to provide some value and do meaningful things. Looking forward to being here. Never been to Turkey before. Love what I've seen so far, and I hope to be back here again soon.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. My name is Fahim Bakshi, and I'm from Kinguin. Let me tell you more about Kinguin, and then I'll come back to myself. So Kinguin is a gaming marketplace. It's quite popular, actually, in Turkey as well. We have over 7.5 million gamers. We established globally. We have almost 12,000 transactions every day. So it's like a marketplace where we can actually buy and sell games over the internet. And of course, we are also now planning to do an ICO connected with the project with the blockchain. Myself, I'm coming from a background of IT and economy. I've worked in stock exchanges, in startup companies. I've helped companies going from local to global. I've worked in e-commerce platform, and we are also, and at the moment in Kinguin, I'm working as the head of payments, where I actually, my role is to make sure that we actually get the transactions smoothen, and also my role in ICO is more into the token, into our own cryptocurrency, so we'll come back to that.
And I'll actually start with you because you just mentioned that you have a presence in Turkey. Can you tell me more about why there's such a strong connection to the Turkish market for Kinguin?
We actually expanded in Turkey in 2016. We thought maybe the Turkey would be, just like a very normal market. But when we actually established here, we actually came to Gaming Istanbul. We came to an event in Ankara as well, and we actually saw that the gamers they were, even before we expanded in the region, gamers already knew Kinguin, and it makes actually the brand very stronger. We also have a regional manager in the audience, Aisha, who's also heading the business development here. So we have connected to major companies here in Turkey as a B2B. We are, of course, working with the internal payment method, also in-and-out, which is quite famous into the gaming system. We've also done our Kinguin and Friends. This is one of the events which we actually, moreover, work on a kind of establishment in like a roadshow. So we actually did it in Turkey. It was a couple of weeks ago.
Nice. And I was actually checking out your background last night, and well, for both of you getting ready for the panel, and I noticed that you have a very corporate background coming from like SAP, and you were there for how many years? 8 years?
That's right.
Yeah. So why this personal, and I'm just personally curious about it, why the personal transition from having worked in the corporate world for so many years to blockchain? What gave you the itch to make the move?
Yeah, in my case, it wasn't like I had a epiphany and I said, I'm going to do blockchain. We're an existing company solving a very specific problem. SAP is a customer. Now, what is a customer? We have a bunch of customers today. Last year, they came to us and said, listen, we have this specific problem. Can you solve it? So we followed that thread and realized that we can solve the problem that SAP has and other companies have using blockchain. So in a way, the market need and the customer need pulled us into blockchain. So that's how the evolution happened. Blockchain was an afterfact. ICO was even further an afterfact. Existing company, revenues, and therefore this path began for us. To your point, I was joking to someone yesterday, the money I spend on LOAC today is probably what I used to spend in 2 days at SAP from a marketing perspective. So I have to learn to deal with a completely different world, but that's the reality of blockchain. Yeah. A lot more fun, though.
And where do you see the blockchain play in the enterprise world in general?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, and that's what we're solving right now. If you look at blockchain broadly, right, the 3 dimensions to look at it. One is cryptocurrency. Easy to understand, people like it, Bitcoin, Ether doing really well. Second is it's a phenomenal tech platform. It can do really interesting things. And the third part is it need not just focus on value, it can do interesting things to data. So what we're saying is we can apply blockchain to data and allow enterprise to share data among themselves using blockchain. To give you an example quickly, any of our customers share a lot of data with their partner ecosystem. Services partners, tech partners, channel partners, and supply chain. All of the interactions today going outside the enterprise is not secure, happening primarily on old platforms and email. What we said is we'd use blockchain and secure the data that goes between companies so that it's a completely new way of looking at blockchain, using it, applying it to blockchain use cases.
Yeah, and just to give the audience more info with your ICO timeline, so you are currently in the process of having your private sale?
That's right. Yeah. A private sale right now began.
And what's the timeline for the ICO public sale?
So we'll go for another roughly 4 weeks with the private sale. Then our pre-sale will start in the 2nd week of May.
Okay, how about you with Kinguin?
We start on the 30th of March.
Okay, so you're already in the process. You had a private sale as well?
Yes, we already had a private sale, and we start pre-ICO on 30th March.
Okay.
So just
you're going to be having a public sale as well?
Yes.
Down the road? Yes. And how, so you've been dealing with investors, of course. Mm-hmm. Maybe you are running the investor relations or you have someone in your team doing that. What has been the reaction in general in the space? And I want to ask both of you for ICOs in the gaming space, any challenges there dealing with the investors, and same with enterprise?
So if I give an example of Kinguin, it's an already established marketplace. We have made 100 million revenue already on that. And when we go to the investors, we can actually show the case study of our audience and how fan following we have already in the region. So it's not quite impossible, but of course it's difficult to convince the investors. And on the other hand, investors are not normally gamers. Yeah. So it's hard to explain them. But when we actually we are also connected to the esports industry, which is part of also the gaming industry, the PC gamers, and it actually gives us a variety of techniques and approaches towards the investors and convincing them towards our ICO and investing toward our projects.
How about you? Like any specific?
Yeah, I think we are far from gaming. So in our perspective, right, when we looked at enterprise use cases, the idea was that the need has to be there, a business need, whether we solve with blockchain or not, number one. So we have, to what Michael presented in Cointopia, a few points. We have existing customers. We have technology that's being sold today. and it solves a very precise need. ICO or not doesn't matter. If those tests are passed, then you have a viable business. Because ICO is just one step along a long continuum of building a viable company. So to us, ICO is a step, but it's by no means the end. We're just beginning there. Fundamentally, the business need has to be there. It has to solve a very big business problem, and we can build a compelling business globally around the product. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I think that's very important because so many people are tokenizing their companies right now, but for many of them, they actually don't need to use the blockchain technology at all. So some do it for fundraising purposes, etc. So my next question is regarding this whole process, and of course, I think people always read about the glorious sides of the ICOs in the news, so that's why I think there are so many people out there choosing to ICO versus going the traditional VC route, etc. But I do want to talk about the challenges, for both of you, if you can each give me your version of the story. What were the biggest, or what have been the biggest challenges you had throughout the process, all the way from getting ready for the ICO, maybe regulatory things, or during the ICO dealing with the investors? So what have been the major challenges? And I think that's very important for the audience, for any entrepreneur who wants to go that route.
I think the first challenge when we planned and when we thought that, okay, let's do an ICO, we have to go into the blockchain project. The biggest challenge was to build a perfect team. The team who actually knows about blockchain, the team who actually knows about the regulations, which region to actually even open an entity, what is important for the blockchain to kickstart. So it was quite important for us to actually gather the perfect team. Of course, we needed some of the employees who were working in the company, and some of the new, let's say, for example, blockchain developers. It was quite important for us to understand which is the perfect region in order to go and open an established company, in order to make sure that regulation complies, in order to make sure that we have all the paperwork done. This was one of the biggest challenges, and it actually took us a bit of time to do that. And second thing was also to figure out how the technology should work, how the consumers should actually benefit from this blockchain project. And of course, and by now we already have a well-established team. We have a team, we have also well-established advisors who are quite good in their area, in their field, because for us it was more important to also have an advisors who are from the gaming industry, and also have a blockchain background. They know what they're doing, and make sure that we have a ready model available for the customers.
Yeah, for us, it's kind of interesting. It is more to convince the team that ICO is something we need to focus on. Because we have an existing product we're selling. We're a small company, we can't do too many things at the same time. So allowing the team to focus on blockchain was easy. It's a technology, will solve the problem. Then saying, guys, go beyond that to now focus on an ICO, which is very different from the Silicon Valley venture world. Venture world is very easy. I go to Andreessen, I go to Lightspeed, I put up slides, they say yes or no. Here, I got to put up white papers, explaining things that I would not explain. And it's a very public fundraise, if you will. So it's a very different mentality for us to get our heads around. That's number one. Number two, we are really good on the enterprise side. Our advisory board includes the CMO from SAP, Jonathan. We have the CIO of Nissan on our board. Very compelling enterprise guys. We were not that good on the crypto side. So we were plugging that. In the last 2 months, we plugged that. So for us, it's more trying to get the ICO modalities ironed out as opposed to the enterprise side. It's a good problem to have, but that's the part we are solving. The third part is becoming so transparent for a private company. Because in the ICO world, people expect transparency. What's your roadmap? Who's your team? Their background? Do their LinkedIn profile have all of that? So that is a little bit interesting for us to get used to, but now we are there. We are making a lot of progress, and I think we should hopefully do pretty well.
And one thing that's interesting about your ICO is you're based in Silicon Valley, and of course, like in the US, we read about the regulations almost every day. Like every day, there are some news coming from SEC. You chose the UK for your ICO market versus the US. Why?
Yeah, so lawyers are paid a lot of money for a reason. LOAC Inc. is based in Silicon Valley. That's where we are. That's why we built the platform. It's very clean. The company doing the ICO is LOAC Limited from the UK, who's a partner of ours. Legally, that's how it's been structured. Just because the nuances around an ICO, for good and for bad, is still evolving. People today still think ICOs as cryptocurrency. We are not a currency by any means. We are a utility token. But that's nomenclature that is understanding is still not there. Europe is a little bit more, how do I say it, open and innovative on that front. So we chose UK through our partner to do an ICO. And
this question is probably for both of you because you're based in Europe, you're in the US, but the whole ICO landscape is so global. But I want to hear more. How do you compare two markets? Because that's a question for you. Chose the UK market over the US for your ICO, but for entrepreneurs in the audience, how should they choose the market they're going to establish themselves in? That could be all the way from incorporating themselves to choosing an ICO market. And we hear so much about what's going on in Switzerland with Crypto Valley, but that's not across the EU. That's just for Switzerland. And Malta is stepping it up big time right now, potentially becoming a blockchain hub in Europe. So what would be your go-to advice for entrepreneurs trying to navigate the waters of regulatory issues?
I think it all depends on the business model of that particular blockchain project or ICO project. So for us, it's more that we actually chose Estonia. And why Estonia? Because we want to also go into cryptocurrency, because we are a marketplace where so there is a seller and there's a buyer, and we have to also pay to the seller once he's actually sold the product. So we want to go into a cryptocurrency where we can actually exchange them internally in our own ecosystem. So we call our cryptocurrency as crowns, and when we want our seller to be paid, he can also be paid by crowns. And later on, he can actually store the crowns, and the value grows, and that's how the seller actually benefits. Same goes for an investor. So he doesn't have to be a seller, but he can already get the crypto crowns already in their wallet. And then the value increases, and that's how he benefits. And because we have been, our year-on-year growth is almost 30 to 40%, and we are a 5-year-old company and almost made 100 million with 7.5 million gamers. And we believe that this actually makes more interesting for our audience. And this is why we actually chose Estonia, because they are more, the regulations is more comfortable for us in terms of the fiat currency, in terms of exchanging into a cryptocurrency and vice versa.
Yeah, to build on that point, there are two dimensions to an ICO. One is from a legal framework, where do you host the ICO? Second is the marketing landscape that you want to focus on. From a legal perspective and from a structural perspective, clearly Malta is a big one, Switzerland is another one, Singapore perhaps as well. All of them have costs. Also, the proximity is important, because you can't, if you're here, you don't want to fly to Singapore for paperwork. It won't work. So Malta or Switzerland would be good options that you could do. And the second aspect is looking forward. IO coin, cryptocurrency versus something else. So that thinking has to be thought through as to what you want to do. Now, if you step beyond the incorporation, from a marketing perspective, be close to where your users are going to be. That's an important point. Because if you're going to be doing gaming and your users are more in Europe, then you better have a presence in that market. So I would look at it from those two dimensions to kind of frame it.
And I think we have time for one last question. If you can, so you've been dealing with investors throughout the process. I'm assuming that you also have corporate investors. I don't know if you managed to have some of those major corporations as investors on board, which is not something traditional for them to do, but I think they're doing it more and more so. I keep hearing more corporations investing in ICOs. So what would be your tips for the entrepreneurs, blockchain entrepreneurs out there starting the fundraising process, dealing with the investors?
Yeah, so in our case, we have a venture firm from San Francisco already investing into us. They've never done an ICO before, but they love what you're doing, so they're investing into us. So we had to do some interesting paperwork to support an ICO as well as support what they help.
Not in your is it for your token
Yes.
round?
Yes,
Okay.
that's right. We got someone for that as
Yeah.
well. And then we have some very senior people from SAP, from Lloyds Bank in London, from Citibank in London, from Gartner, who are very senior execs, want to invest, but have never even opened a Coinbase account. So that we have to help them do all of that. So we are lucky on that front because our enterprise DNA pulled these audience together. So we have a VC, we have very senior execs from the industry, and now we are looking at, if you will, the broader ecosystem of users to come in.
So I'll give you an example of a recent event we were. So we were doing our own roadshow in Dubai, and of course we had a lot of bankers there. The people from Dubai, they're moreover, they are interested in traditional way, but because Dubai is actually creating an internet city, it was not hard for us to convince some of the investors, some corporate investors to invest in our ICO already. They already know what is blockchain. They already know what exactly are cryptocurrencies, and also they are building their own paperless city by 2021. So that actually made us more comfortable in having the corporate investors as well.
And would you say you work more with traditional investors versus family offices, or was it a combination of?
It was a
everything?
combination
Yeah.
of this,
Yeah.
yes.
Awesome. Well, I think we're perfectly on time. Thank you so much for joining me on this panel. And if you guys have any more questions, we'll be out there during the coffee break, so you can come meet us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuche.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.